Here's the problem. Iran played by the rules, and they got anyway.
They got anyway.
Why do you think Trump... You know what? I think Israel needs to fight its own wars. Why do they keep pulling the United States into their wars?
Why is Reza Pahlavi getting on TV, doing an interview, pull it up, saying, please, Iranians, now's the time to revolt against the regime?
That's installed by Israel.
So I don't understand what you're doing. How do you feel about the Islamic regime of Iran?
How do you feel about a country that's doing a genocide right now having a nuclear weapon? Do you have any problems with that?
So Iran, while it hasn't officially pulled out of the non-proliferation agreement, they've
had no idea what you're talking about.
Just talk. Don't cry.
It is frustrating when the JCPOA is the Iran nuclear deal.
Right, you said
they pulled out of that into the fact that Netanyahu goaded the U.S. to invade Iraq and then didn't even send IDF soldiers. He had 4,000 of our soldiers die in Iraq based on a false premise. And they got anyway.
Why do you think?
So it was always going to be tumultuously thunderous, having the passionately steadfast and articulate Ana Kasparian seated across the table with cringe PBD Muppet and staunch Israeli supporter Adam Sosnick in a discussion on the Iran-Israel conflict. What also doesn't help is the host Gillian Michaels, apparently an ex-fitness guru and businesswoman who appears rather slow-minded to the topic matter, bellowing out IDF propaganda from her laptop. Yes, the sparks do fly, so let's jump in.
Whether you're talking about Iran, whether you're talking about Iraq, whether you're talking about Libya, whether you're talking about Afghanistan, there has been this orchestrated effort, specifically by Netanyahu. He's been kind of like the mouthpiece for it. But the government of Israel has been trying to get the United States to fight its wars for Israel to the detriment of Americans. We went into Iraq. 4,000 of our soldiers died based on a complete lie. There were no weapons of mass destruction. There was no indication that they were developing nuclear weapons. It was a lie. And I believe that right now what's happening is Israel does the strike. Okay, I think Trump made a huge mistake by giving that strike or giving these current strikes that Israel is doing his blessing. I think he was under the assumption that that would bring Iran to the negotiating table and give the United States more leverage. But that is not what's going to happen. Now Iran is in full-blown war with Israel to the point where Israel is trying to get the United States to fight offensively, not to just defend Israel, but to fight offensively.
Adam, do you want to? I actually have some thoughts, but I know you're far more well-versed than me.
Well, I mean, I'm an American first, so...
And this is where you first start to gauge who's who in terms of knowing their stuff. The ridiculous host tees up Adam as an authority, who then says embarrassingly, absolutely nothing.
Respectfully, what's your point?
My point is the United States should not be backing Israel in this war of aggression against Iran.
So
Iran is not a threat to our national security. There's no evidence of that whatsoever.
I don't think that's true, Anna.
Based on what?
Okay, based on the fact that she just said they have a huge amount of enriched uranium.
They do.
They have 6 to 10 bombs worth. So let's start with that.
You want to know who has nuclear weapons? Israel.
I know, but Israel is
not...
Hold on.
No, not allegedly. Not allegedly.
Hold on. There's a difference. Israel is not chanting death to America. They are not ideologically captured. On top of that, they just got detonators, which makes them more dangerous. What is the proof that they're doing this? They have nuclear sites that both...
Jill, this is the same Iraq narrative. How are we falling for it again?
Because folks with a willfully biased or hegemonic mindset, or just plain simply pig ignorant, will never learn.
That I don't want Iraq ever again, but I see.
But we're driving toward that. We're totally driving toward that.
Just because you're right on something doesn't mean you're right on everything.
I'm right on everything when it comes to this.
So that's where you made a problem. Is that you just
tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong.
That you're right on everything.
Your weapons, though.
Tell me where I'm wrong.
I just want to finish this one.
Are you going to go fight? Are you going to enlist and go fight on behalf of Israel?
I have family. I have friends that are in the IDF.
Okay,
how many family and friends do you have
They're in Israel. If you're American,
if we're gonna have a discussion,
you should not be calling for American soldiers to fight Israel's war.
You just ranted, and I'm going to talk now. I'm going to ask you one question.
Okay, Adam, go.
But if we're going to talk, and then let me talk.
Let me just say one thing, real quick. One sentence.
I don't get to talk. You kept going.
You do.
Hannah, welcome to your show. Go ahead, sweetheart.
The country that is currently carrying out a genocide in Gaza has nuclear weapons, and they have the audacity to talk about how other countries in the region are a threat to their national security. Okay.
Cool.
Let me just say one thing. Here's the thing. I appreciate that Netanyahu is a
terrible
deeply flawed person.
Yep.
Okay. And I appreciate that nobody wants to see Iraq again. But on top of the fact that I do think there is some legitimate concern at this moment with regard to nuclear weapons, there's also intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Every country has that. Are we going to invade every country because they have missiles?
Death to America. They're the top funders of terror. The Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Shia militias. They have assassination plots against our president. There's cyber attacks.
There's no evidence of that either, by the way.
Where does that? CIA said that.
The CIA loves to go with the United States into war.
I want to understand your central thesis. Here's my question.
What is your central thesis?
That Iran is not
a threat to America. Iran is not a threat to America. There's no evidence that Iran is a threat to America.
Developing nuclear weapons?
They are part of...
Are they developing nuclear weapons or not?
They are not developing nuclear weapons. There is no evidence of that.
So why are they having nuclear peace talks?
Why do they have detonators
Because they think it's fun? What are you talking about?
Okay.
If we can't live in reality, they're having nuclear peace talks.
Let me answer your question.
To do what? To talk about the nuclear weapons that they're not developing?
Okay.
That makes no sense to me.
First of all, I would not be surprised if they geared up enriching uranium as a result of the fact that Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018.
The Iran nuclear deal.
Hold on.
Let me
they're developing nuclear weapons.
Hold on.
Okay. Iran is part of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Do you know what that is?
This host is an absolute wet blanket. And of course, Adam is incapable of articulating what the Non-Proliferation Treaty is.
Go ahead, explain.
Non-Proliferation Treaty allows the international community to do checks on Iran to ensure that they are not developing nuclear weapons. The country that does have nuclear weapons is Israel. They are not part of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. They don't even acknowledge the fact that they have nuclear weapons. The idea that Israel, that has the backing of the top military superpower in this world, and that's the United States, the country that has nuclear weapons, is crying about how Iran is such a threat to Israel, it's ridiculous.
But didn't they just...
Here's the problem. Iran played by the rules. And they got fucked anyway.
They lied.
And they got fucked anyway.
Why do you think Trump...
So let me understand one thing.
Let me ask
you
you something.
Are you a defender of Iran? Is that who you are?
No, I'm not a defender of Iran.
Mental
I'm a
gymnastics you
defender
have
of
to
the
go
United
through
States
to
of America
defend
and our
Iran.
soldiers.
Sounds like you're defending
and our
Iran
soldiers.
right now.
You know what? I think Israel needs to fight its own wars. Why do they keep pulling the United States into their wars?
America is not
it's
on the
unacceptable.
ground in Israel. I'm America first. There's zero
You're not
Americans.
America first. Don't say that.
You don't.
When you're egging on this war,
first.
you're not America first. We have soldiers in that region right now, tens of thousands of them, who are now a target as a result of this.
So are you just like, do you hate Israel blindly that you can't address the facts?
I
like,
hate
what is it?
what the current Israeli government, not just the current Israeli government, what the Israeli government over the last several decades has done in lying to Americans and the American government in order to get us to fight their wars for them. That's what I have a problem with.
All the wars, and I agree we shouldn't have done what we did in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all that.
Yeah,
you're blaming
in 10 years, you'll say the same about Iran.
Our entire presidential, congressional, and military apparatus, all of that is based on Bibi Netanyahu's opinion?
What an absolute donut this Sosnick fella is. If Netanyahu is and has been the Israeli prime minister for many years, then of course his opinion very much counts.
Is that what you're saying?
The Israeli government wants to be the dominant force in that region. Can we pull up the Wesley Clark video?
Newsflash, they are. They've just taken out all their enemies. So I don't understand, are you defending terrorists?
I want Linda's
Are you defending terrorism? I don't get it.
No, I'm not defending terrorists.
I don't know what you're doing.
No other country expects the United States to fight their wars for them other than Israel. Why is that?
Well, Ukraine's doing a pretty good job. How about that? So you're dead wrong on that.
In the case
and there's
of Ukraine,
also other countries that we get involved in.
Yeah,
and I don't see American troops on the ground in Israel, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, in any of these. Okay. So what you're doing is yapping and lying. Here's my problem with you. You can be loud. And you can be wrong.
You don't
Pick
have any.
one.
You don't have
when
any
you're loud
actual
and wrong,
substantive
that's
points.
when you get in trouble. Okay.
When
we invaded Iraq,
Lindy.
I've been trying to speak this entire. It's like 20 minutes in. I haven't said a single word.
Go ahead, Lindy.
Please.
Go crazy. Go nuts.
I don't want to be like.
Just go.
Well,
Lindy,
anyway.
Well, Adam, you can also be profanely obnoxious and purposely wrong. And as for, is it Lindy here throwing her shade? Similar to the host, in another one on the panel who had very little to say of any real relevance.
If you play by the rules for years, you literally play by the rules, you're part of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, you're allowing IAEA inspectors to come into your country, and you still see that Israel is successful in goading the United States to fight this war, they're still lying about what Iran is up to. Wouldn't you just say, you know what, F it. Why am I even part of this? Why are we allowing the international community to come in and check what's happening?
So you're saying Iran is playing by the rules?
Yeah, Iran is absolutely playing by the rules.
Then now I know who you are. You believe Iran. Respect.
I don't believe Iran.
So
I believe international inspectors, and I believe the United States as they, by the way, if you don't want Iran to develop nuclear weapons, best way to do that is to remain in the Iran nuclear deal. But Netanyahu hated the Iran nuclear deal.
Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal.
Let me calmly try to explain it so you guys understand what I'm saying. For years, Iran played by the rules because they don't want war, okay? They allowed the international community to come in. They did abide by the Iran nuclear deal. Even after Trump pulled out, for a few years after that, they were not enriching uranium because they wanted to re-enter the deal. By the way, Biden comes into power. Biden promised on the campaign trail that he was going to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. He didn't do that. So Democrats are a problem in this scenario as well. Hold on, let me finish my point. Let me finish my point.
So you see how I allow you to talk?
So I need to ask you something, Adam.
Go ahead.
Do you think Tulsi Gabbard was lying to the American people when she said that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon? Was she lying?
I don't know what information she's looking at, but I'm pretty sure Iran is working on a nuclear weapon. Question for you.
Sure, based on what?
Question for you.
Based on what?
Yes, based on what Adam Sosnick. You'll notice it's the umpteenth question he doesn't want to, or rather can't, answer. What an absolute melt.
Here's the question.
How are you sure?
She said they have enough enriched uranium.
She says that they have accelerated.
And if they're not working on nuclear weapons, why do they have detonators?
Okay, so what do you think is going to happen?
Scientists there.
How do you feel about the Islamic regime of Iran?
How do you feel about a country that's doing a genocide right now having a nuclear weapons? Do you have any problems with that?
But let's say
Can you address the nuclear weapons that Israel has, or are you going to deny that they have it?
We're talking about Iran, right?
Okay. Well, we're talking about Israel and Iran.
Okay.
Israel is
a
military superpower because of the United States. They have nuclear weapons. They're carrying out the mass slaughter of innocent people in Gaza and the West Bank, which had nothing to do with October 7th. It's not. It's all related. We're pretending as if Israel is the devil here, and they're not.
I've learned my lesson. Don't try to convince someone who's completely off left field.
Someone who's actually educated on the matter, yeah.
So here's my question for you. How do you feel about the Islamic regime in Iran? Are they good people?
What a cheap shot. He's badly attempting his gotcha version of Piers' "Do you condemn Hamas?"
No, they're terrible people.
Okay, so what do you want to do?
So are the Saudis. So are a bunch of other countries we do trade with.
We have relations violations of the proliferation agreement right here.
As bad as the Ayatollah. Why are people in Iran cheering for Israel? Why is...
That's not true.
Yeah, no,
there's videos left and right.
80% of Armenians actually detest
Iranians are rooting for Israel. If there's one country that Israel has the highest approval ratings, it's within Iran.
Iranians
why is Reza Pahlavi getting on TV, doing an interview, pull it up, saying, please, Iranians, now's the time to revolt against the regime?
That's installed by Israel.
So I don't understand what you're doing, respectfully.
Yeah.
You're defending Iran?
I'm defending the United States.
What a horrible position to be in.
Yeah, I'm defending the United States.
The country that yells death to America.
Right.
A United States that
fighting this war. I don't want our soldiers fighting this war. I don't want American taxpayers.
You're using a straw man argument because our soldiers are not fighting this war.
But they're going to. It's like they could be any minute, and that's
no, they're not.
What makes
they're not in Iran.
Well, what makes you say that? Because this whole thing is already so suspicious.
So the argument is we don't want them could be, but they're not now. So let's live in reality.
Well, Trump initially denied involvement, correct? And then he later went on and said he actually had full knowledge of everything going down the entire time.
Of course he did.
Okay.
With that said, though, can I tell you one thing? Okay, so Iran, while it hasn't officially pulled out of the non-proliferation agreement, they have violated both the spirit and the technical limits of the JCPOA.
But they're not in the JCPOA anymore. That doesn't exist.
But this is right.
You said that
out of that deal because they violated it.
Oh my God!
But Anna, listen, the uranium
you guys have no idea what you're talking about.
You just said
JCPOA
Anna, you don't need to be emotional. Just talk. Don't cry.
It is frustrating when people. Okay. The JCPOA is the Iran nuclear deal.
Right, you said
they pulled out of that in 2018.
Here's why.
How condescending of Sosnick, yet Kasparian ignores him like the irrelevant, vacuous little plank he is. So finally, the 2-bit Bob host pipes back in again, but Anna goes out guns blazing on a high.
So when I'm looking at examples of the ways they violated agreements, okay, they promised they would not enrich uranium beyond 3.67%, but they began enriching up to 20%.
When they were in the JCPOA.
But why did Trump pull out
He pulled out because Bibi doesn't want the JCPOA. Bibi wanted to go to war with Iran. He's wanted regime change in Iran for decades.
So you're saying that Bibi Netanyahu controls Trump?
Trump's the most honest person in the world.
You're saying that Bibi Netanyahu controls Trump. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I think the Israeli government controls our government, yes.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, it's not an opinion.
And you're wrong, but that's entitled to your opinion.
It's based on AIPAC.
So you're saying that Trump...
It's based on money and politics. It's based on the fact that Netanyahu go to the U.S. to invade Iraq and then didn't even send IDF soldiers. He had 4,000 of our soldiers die in Iraq based on a false premise of weapons of mass destruction.
You care about American soldiers.
I do care about American soldiers, and I care about American taxpayers who spend trillions of dollars on this trash when we are dealing with $37 trillion in debt.
So now you're a fiscal conservative.
Yeah, I am a fiscal conservative when it comes to spending our resources on wars that we shouldn't be fighting on behalf of a foreign country.
Let me understand this. You're saying that Trump is so weak and such a pussy that he just listens to whatever Bibi does? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think he's weak or a pussy. I think he's transactional. I think he's transactional.
Wait,
and I think that he buys this ridiculous narrative that Iran was behind the 2 assassination attempts when there isn't even a shred of evidence other than Netanyahu declaring it.